One of the very misunderstood concept is concept of what has been labeled as suicide bombing. It is martyrdom operations, and it is being known in Islam. There are multiple contraindications, there are multiple arguments that have been brought against it. Martyrdom operations. When a person presumes that he is going for sure die at a particular place at a particular time, he goes against the presumption that a particular is going to die in a particular situation. It's not, we don't have situation. One of the very misunderstood concept is concept of what has been labeled as suicide bombing. It is martyrdom operations, and it is being known in Islam. There are multiple contraindications, there are multiple arguments that have been brought against it. Martyrdom operations. When a person presumes that he is going for sure die at a particular place at a particular time, he goes against the presumption that a particular is going to die in a particular situation. It's not, we don't have situation.
We also have Sushant Sareen, strategic affairs expert, defense expert, joining us also on the broadcast. Thank you for speaking with us here on NDTV. Sir, your reaction to this video, and if you could, if you have more examples of how easy it is to, reach out to impressionable minds, how easy it is to brainwash them into something as heinous a crime as suicide bombing.
No, look, it's not very easy to brainwash somebody into blowing themselves up. It is relatively easier to radicalize people and, plant the seed of hatred in their mind. And that is something which requires relentless propaganda, constantly drumming in a message. And we've seen some organizations, including some religious places, where this kind of stuff is done. And by some clerics and others. We've seen that in this particular case, in the Faridabad explosives case. We've seen, a particular cleric being involved in this kind of activity. There are innumerable examples of that. But whether somebody who is a fanatic will also transform into a suicide bomber, that's a different ballgame altogether. I think that requires the next level of indoctrination. Secondly, I haven't seen the video which you are referring to. That could give us some idea on, what exactly was sticking in his mind, but it also calls in question.
He is speaking proper English, in this accented English, very calm, very composed, very collected, talking about how, the concept of suicide bombing is misunderstood, clarifying that concept, calling it a part of Islam, that it is in Islam. In fact, it is a martyrdom operation where he's, trying to radicalize more and more people, trying to recruit more people through that video.
So look, there is a concept of martyrdom operation. Number one, look, the interpretation of Islam differs from clerics to clerics and schools of theology to schools of theology. So there's not one interpretation of Islam, number one. Number two, you have to understand that there are some people who justify these kind of attacks and call them suicide operations, right? Now, these are operations in which if death is certain, 100%,
Right.
which it would be in the case of a suicide bombing,
Right.
then I think the traditional clerics think that that is against Islam, that is not according to the precepts of Islam, that is an un-Islamic act. Suicide is forbidden in Islam. But these radicals try and justify it with their own logic, which is
Right, so putting those people in a position where they are made to believe that death is their only destination. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking with us here on NDTV. Vishnu Soma also joining us in order to get us the latest on this. Vishnu, take us to the details of this video. It's extremely shocking as to a man who seems so educated. Of course, he's a doctor turned terrorist there, trying to reach out to more and more people, trying to convert them as well.
I think this is one of the most shocking videos that we've seen. This is a video of Muhammad Omar. He is the man in that Hyundai i20 which exploded. Here he speaks about the act of martyrdom. He talks about suicide. He's sort of trying to get into the theory of martyrdom, as he calls it, suicide, which is what he actually was involved in. I think the most shocking aspect of this is firstly, I've never seen video of any terrorist bomber in India quite as articulate as this man was, where he spells out what exactly it is that they're trying to achieve. He's trying to get into the theory of martyrdom, of suicide. He speaks in English. He speaks absolutely articulately. He is a doctor. And therefore, this gives you an idea of the extent of the operations. This is a very calm, composed man thinking about doing something and justifying actions which are heinous, are actions which resulted in the death of so many people, not just outside Red Fort, but subsequently as a result of that explosion in the Naugam Thana in Srinagar. But the fact of the matter is that this is the nature of the terrorists that we are dealing with. When I started covering, security 30 years back, the terrorists that used to come across from Pakistan were poorly armed. They were not, they'd done it for a little bit of money. They weren't, involved in this level of indoctrination. Over a period of time, we've seen that soldiers and those who come across are much more advanced militarily. But what we're now also seeing is an aspect of homegrown terror where you've got extremely trained, educated people willing to articulate and postulate their theories on suicide as this terrorist was doing, and explain why this is happening. Obviously, there is a link to Pakistan. All terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, and certainly in other parts of the country as well, in most cases, goes back to terrorist handlers. Who those ultimate terrorist handlers are, we don't know. But the fact that you've got this man speaking in this manner indicates a couple of things. Firstly, how developed they were in their ideology on what they were going to do and what they were going to hit, how they were going to recruit others, and why this was entirely justified. Sushant Sareen with us as well. Sushant, I've not seen video quite as categorical as this. Of course, it's not grainy video, it's high definition video. This is a man speaking perfect English who is explaining or justifying his actions.
Vishnu,
could you tell us about
Sushant
what this
with
means
us
for the nature of the threat? Sushant,
Vishnu, we'll have him just with us in a bit, but this really highlights it. Vishnu, this is really an example of how they got these doctors radicalized to the extent that they did. This video is a standing example because not only did they manage to convert them, but also use them to convert perhaps many more people in that educated lot of people. We're talking about not just doctors, but when it comes across, when you have someone like a doctor speaking to you in the manner that this man is speaking, it holds more weight, doesn't it?
Can we listen to the video one more time, Divya? I'm wondering.
Right, let's just play it out.
One of the very misunderstood concept is concept of what has been labeled as suicide bombing. It is martyrdom operations, and it is being known in Islam. There are multiple contraindications, but there are multiple arguments that have been brought against it. Martyrdom operations. When a person presumes that he is going for sure die at a particular place at a particular time, he goes against the presumption that a particular is going to die in a particular situation. It's not, we don't have situation.
Right, of course, this is something that is a deep reflection of the deep radicalization that has taken place.
Explain what is taking place over here. This is an extremely worrying video. It is of one of the master plotters in the Red Fort terror case. This was the man who was eventually in that car, a Hyundai i20, which detonated because of an explosive using ammonium nitrate and possibly other explosive items which were set off. This was the man who was inside that car, who actually traveled not just to the Red Fort area, but to parts of central Delhi, other areas as well. There have been various accounts on the nature of the explosive itself. Was it a fully developed explosive, or was it something which perhaps didn't trigger to its true potential? Prior to this man moving out, there were the arrests of several doctors which took place in Faridabad. We've got several doctors associated with a hospital in Faridabad. There was a doctor who was arrested in Gujarat as well. There were links to Kashmir which were made in parts of Kashmir. Some of the doctors who were arrested, in their lockers in government medical centers, there were AK-47s, AK-56 rifles, weapons, etc., etc. There is a woman terrorist who's a key part of all of this. She has been arrested as well. She seemed to be a terrorist mastermind in her own right. Her connections with the Jaish-e-Mohammed are also being looked at very, very closely. All of these doctors who under oath were involved in the process of saving lives, came together to actually end lives. The fact that this man very calmly speaks about what it is that he seeks to do is really, really frightening. And the fact that this was a large cohort of terrorists, all extremely educated, points to the evolving nature of the threat of terrorism that India now faces. There was the person in Gujarat who's apparently trying to develop ricin gas. There was castor oil, which had been found with him. Castor oil is used in the manufacture of ricin. The fact that almost 3 tons of ammonium nitrate and other explosive material were recovered from the house of one of the doctors in Faridabad, right, just gives you an idea of how their logistics chain in acquiring, ammonium nitrate and other explosives of this amount were, what those logistics chains were. The fact that they were entirely radicalized, as this particular video indicates, shows you how determined they were. And I think there are a couple of points that we must look at. Number one, the police, the investigators did swing into action. There were arrests which were made. Unfortunately, there were 10 lives which were still lost. But in as bad and as sad as the loss of those 10 lives is concerned, I do believe that the fact that if these people had not been arrested, the others apart from Umar who detonated himself in that I-20, then we would be looking at a threat which would be fairly unprecedented since 26/11 itself. There are lots of questions being asked on Nogam and what took place over there when all of the explosives, or a large amount of those explosives, which were found in Faridabad, which presumably for legal reasons were moved to that police thana in Nogam, and where there was this horrific accident which took place. We're told it's an accident in which at least 9 people lost their lives. Was that just an accident? Was it something more? We'll go with what the police are saying, but lots of questions still remain on that aspect of all of this. And now this video emerges, which gives you, our viewers, a look face to face with the killer, somebody who was directly responsible for exploring that weapon, that device in that I-20, which resulted in the death of 13 people outside the Red Fort.
Right, Vishnu. We also have Aditya with us. Aditya, of course, this video is a prime example of the kind of people perhaps that they were trying to reach out. We're talking about young people, tech-savvy people. Vishnu's been also talking about how educated, the language in which he spoke, the way that he spoke it. And of course, that really makes a difference as to the kind of people that he could perhaps have he could be reaching out to.
Well, perhaps, this is one of the most dangerous videos that we have discovered, because this will uncover yet another aspect of the kind of radicalization that was underway. And this was a new kind of radicalization that hasn't been seen before. Very educated people being indoctrinated into doing something that is absolutely against the law and perhaps against Islam in this particular case as well. In this video, Umar is trying to make a case for suicide bombing, calling it a martyrdom, calling it something that they are doing in the service of the religion. I'll take you back to before the Pulwama, in fact, as well. There were audios that were issued by Masood Azhar, the chief of Jaish-e-Mohammed at that particular time, and they were driving a new kind of a jihad at that particular time. In December 2018, when Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar released an audio, he claimed that they are working on a new kind of a strategy of hinting at suicide bombing, hinting at, involving Kashmiris in this entire aspect, and they have been unfortunately successful. This radicalization is unfortunately the roots of the terrorism and the bud of the terrorism that the investigative agencies, the intelligence community, and overall security architecture of the country will be really worried about. This is not just about Umar. It's about many more who could be indoctrinated and radicalized in this entire process. And this is not just a key evidence on the Delhi bombing and the new module of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, but this will lead to further, handlers, perhaps in Pakistan, Afghanistan, or other places, the other people who are involved in this entire case. And this amply makes it clear that what happened outside the Red Fort was a suicide bombing, one of the first in the national capital. And that gives me goosebumps because, in India's national capital, a suicide bombing happening is unprecedented and will send alarm bells in the security apparatus. And that's what has been happening ever since last 1 week when the Red Fort bombing really happened, which killed 13 people and injured more than 30. So you see Umar, who's very calm, who's very composed. He seems to be very absorbed in his mission and is very convinced that he is going to do whatever he wants to do and is building and making a case for suicide bombing. And that's not just unfortunate, it's dangerous. And that's what the J&K police, the NIA, the Delhi Police Special Cell are now trying to investigate, that how did this radicalization begin? We know, of course, that there are handlers from Pakistan involved, but there are also some folks in the Kashmir Valley, for instance, a Maulvi from Shopian, who has been involved ever since last 3 to 4 years, who was involved in radicalization process. So this is a very complex web of investigation that's underway and will involve multiple agencies from the economic angle, Enforcement Directorate, but also from the anti-terror, counter-terror perspective, the NIA, the J&K police, the SIA in this particular case. Even as we speak right now, there are multiple raids that are underway in the Kashmir Valley and in Delhi NCR, trying to investigate this case and see in case there are many more people who are trying to help this Jaish-e-Mohammed module.
Right. Vishnu with us as well. Vishnu, this video really helps bust the misconception of what perhaps is commonly believed, that the uneducated, the unemployed, rather young and impressionable minds are the targets.
Well, if you look at the terrorist handlers, Maulana Masood Azhar and several ideologues of these terrorists, they have been educated, they are articulate, they do spread the word, but they operate at a different level. What we are seeing over here is an entirely new generation of terrorists. They are homegrown in a sense, but obviously with links to Pakistan, the full nature of which have not yet been revealed. But these are young doctors, freshly educated, in the prime of their careers, having been so motivated to be a part of this horrific cause that it's a cause of major concern. And I think this leads back to one primary question, and perhaps Aditya can come in on this. Aditya, have they successfully closed the loop, our investigators, as far as this particular cell is concerned, or is there a sense that there are more who are involved?
Vishnu, when it comes to the Delhi bombing, I think this is the biggest disclosure and this is the biggest breakthrough in this investigation, and I think that will be it. But when it comes to the complex web of Jaish-e-Mohammed, when it comes to the overall, conspiracy and the terror conspiracy, which involves Pakistan, which involves, targeting of Jammu and Kashmir, New Delhi, Delhi NCR, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, there's much more that will come in the coming days. Because remember, here at NDTV, since Tuesday, we have broken details of how Omar and others wanted to target not just New Delhi and multiple places, but perhaps other places as well. December 6th was a chosen date, Vishnu, where they wanted to strike on the sidelines of the Babri Masjid, anniversary. That was not successful because this was busted. Earlier, they had chosen August. But technically, they were not prepared. They did not have the strength and ammunition, etc., for that to take place. And that's why the date was changed to 6th December. But at this particular stage, this video is really, really horrific because this is a very big disclosure of how Umar himself was disclosing and making a case for the suicide bombing to take place. Never before have we seen such an unprecedented video come out in the last 30 to 35 years of Pakistan-sponsored terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir and in the rest of country. We've seen some of the most horrific terror attacks, from the Indian Parliament to the J&K Assembly to Pulwama to Uri to Pathankot to Dinanagar. But in this particular case, we have seen a video come out. In the past, there hasn't been a video. There have been photographs, there have been statements that have come out, but an open confession of a planning, of a conspiracy from Jaish-e-Mohammed is unprecedented. And lastly, Vishnu, it's also important to understand that Jaish-e-Mohammed is one of the most radicalized, indoctrinated groups in Pakistan. In some of the cases, although there is involvement of Pakistan ISI in each proxy effort in India and terrorism in India, but Jaish-e-Mohammed sometimes doesn't even listen to Pakistan. They are, out of the hand. In many cases, they have criticized Pakistani governments and ISI as well. In the past, they have tried to target the Pakistani president as well. So in this particular case, Operation Sindoor has been very significant in decimating, the Jaish-e-Mohammed and its leadership in Bawalpur, which is the headquarters. That's why they immediately tried to rebuild Bawalpur and, try to shift its terror camps, etc., to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and then start a women wing as well. So that is the level of indoctrination that's been underway. Many Jaish-e-Mohammed modules have been active in the Kashmir Valley, and they've been trying very silently to involve the Kashmiri youth, to indoctrinate them for terror attacks. So this would be substantial for this particular investigation of the Delhi bombing, but there's unfortunately much more to come in the overall module, in the overall conspiracy of Jaish-e-Mohammed.
Right.
And I also think what we can actually do need to reflect on is a couple of things. Firstly, as Aditya was rightfully, was correctly mentioning, that during Op Sindoor, India targeted two of the primary terror camps in Pakistan. One was Bahawalpur and one was Murid-K of the Jaish-e-Mohammed and the Lashkar-e-Toiba. But those were targeted by the Indian Air Force. There were 7 other targets which were hit by the Indian Army as well. These were targets just across the line of control line. But the key point, and I think, Adit, if you can also reflect on this, and this is the worry, that you can keep hitting, terror centers, but these terror centers keep moving. We often hit terror launch pads, which are nothing more than small corrugated sheds in POK. But then what ends up happening is that they move. And therefore, as you pointed out just now, the hub of the Jaish-e-Mohammed has merely shifted, which really gives us an idea of the nature of the threat itself. It's persistent and it keeps shifting. Therefore, it as hard as you hit militarily, while that may achieve something, there is no guarantee that can actually, end it one way or the other. Aditya?
Well, that's right, Vishnu. Overall, the nature of terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir, or being sponsored from Pakistan, has completely changed over the last few years. Even as we break here on NDTV, this first and exclusive video of Umar, it's important to mention here that earlier, there were indoctrinations happening, infiltrations happening, and then the terror attack used to happen. This time around, over the last few years, ever since Pulwama, in fact, there is involvement of the Kashmiri youth that has been very, very significant. But since the abrogation of 370, the terror recruitment has come down significantly. But what has increased, one, is the hybrid terrorism that is underway. Second, the radicalization never decreased. The radicalization has been there. What is the difference here has been that the Pakistani society has several radicals, and then there is the Pakistan army, which has changed significantly under Asim Munir. Asim Munir has given an open road to them, a fertile ground, and an open, command that go ahead, do whatever you want to do. I'm not a former Kamar Bajwa that there will be a ceasefire. I'm not Bajwa that I will have a, kind of an understanding. You can do whatever you want to do. You can unleash yourself in Jammu and Kashmir. On the other hand, what the Jaish-e-Mohammed has also done very smartly is that not just involve their fighters, which they used to. Usually, Jaish-e-Mohammed only used to send Pakistani terrorists to conduct terror attacks in Jammu and Kashmir or elsewhere. But this time around, they're trying to very silently radicalize very educated men in Jammu and Kashmir. In this particular case, an entire setup of the doctors, a doctor's module, and this is very, very dangerous. It is very,
Okay.
very concerning for
All right,
multiple
Aditya,
agencies.